Feel free to take one. I like it. Jonas Bernoulli is Dar noticed that he had it on his blog, but that he had a Kickstarter trying to raise up some money for Magit, and so that's where they came from.
Yeah, you spent a year working on it, right, full time?
Yeah, that's right. Do you know any more about that story?
There was something I saw on Sasha Shu's blog where he said like another year. He was planning on doing another one possibly, but he was going to extend it because he said he didn't work that hard over the summer.
Oh, wow.
For the next few months.
Well, that's pretty great. I've been using Magit about a year, so I hope I can say a few things you haven't heard already, but it's really, this is kind of geared towards ones who just haven't really used it, and I'm going to simply go through the UI and do some of all the things that you would use Git for, basically.
I'm glad you put the sticker on there properly oriented, because I would have just put it on one sideways.
Oh no, I didn't put mine down.
That's how it should go.
Oh. I put it on the wrong way.
Hey, I like that. I like that just as good.
No.
So, all right, what's going on here? Good. I know you probably know what Magit is for the most part. It's a front end for Git, but they have this term Porcelain. If you read the doc, it says it's a Git Porcelain in Emacs, and I don't know if you care, but I thought it was interesting. They have Porcelain is kind of a Git term for the UI or the CLI that you interact with, anything that a human interacts with. And Magit aspires to be a complete porcelain, they call it. And it's sort of playing off it's a jargon playing off of like the sinks and the toilets that you interact with, where the actual Git stuff is the plumbing that's happening in the Git CLI. If you if you put -- porcelain at the end, that it gives a sort of output that can be useful for parsing and stuff like that, and presumably that's how Magit sort of implements its porcelain. I'm not sure about that, but at any rate, Magit is trying to be a replacement for Git CLI for a lot of things, and I feel like it's, some of the conveniences I've used with Fish or the Bash plugins that give you the nice. This one here is like gives you tab completion for checking out branches and shows the branches underneath your shell and stuff like that. There's various nice Bash plugins for making Git better to use, and Magit sort of probably it seems like it just takes that a step further.
Are there any commands you found that you haven't been able to perform?
Yeah, there is one that I'll mention. Well, actually, the answer is really no. If I hack on it long enough, I can get it working. But there's one that has I haven't quite gotten past it being just a lost cause but I know how I could get it working. I just need to spend the time to get there, and I'll actually show what you do in that situation when you have a little bug like that. But I will say it's and I haven't like stopped using Git CLI, but it's just drilled into me. It's just the natural way I do a lot of things, but I find myself choosing Magit quite a bit. It seems objectively better at quite a few things, even though it's just my habit not to use it.
Do you find that using the Magit plugin at all impairs your ability to go back to the CLI? Like, do you forget any of the command line?
I haven't yet. I can't say I've noticed that being a problem yet, but one of the things I can say is that it enables a lot of things that I wouldn't have used in Git before, which I'll go into. But by and large, Magit really exposes lots of stuff about Git that I wasn't using before. The stuff that I've drilled into my reptile brain about Git, I doubt I'll ever forget that stuff. I mean, I've used it so many times. Exactly, and I have to, I do feel like sometimes I'm telling myself, why did I just go to shell? I could have done this easily in Magit, but I just wasn't thinking, So, this is, we already try to make Git more interactive, and Magit, I think, takes it a step further. So, by and large, where Magit truly shines, you can see real quickly just using the Magit status buffer. And this talk is pretty much going to sort of center around that buffer. I'll mention a few extra.
Are those live things showing you guys?
No, that's
Oh, okay,
LibreOffice.
that's
Yeah. Where is it? Magit talk. I'll go to Razzle directory. So if you press CXG or EmacsATX Magit from anywhere inside of like dired or any file inside of a repo somewhere, you get the Magit status screen. And maybe next time I'll try to find a lighter theme for this. But you can already see a lot of like, this is the status of your repo. And there's some, out at the beginning you already see like the Git status and like the unstaged and staged changes, some of the stashes that are available, stuff that's on your remote upstream, and information about your current branch. This page right here is just immensely useful by itself, and it's a good base page to fall back into whenever you're preparing your repo. It's and everything sort of revolves around this view. So probably the most useful command to know out the gate is H. It brings up a useful dispatch pop-up. And this whole talk is kind of revolving around this pop-up here, because you can see all the commands for doing everything there. Cherry picking, branching. Most of your commonly used ones, all you got to do is press that button, and it's clear how to do. I find the form that appears whenever you're using it is pretty straightforward. So
I have no idea how to get rid of stash changes, but I stash things and forget about them all the time.
yeah.
And so when I finally opened up this thing, I had like hundreds. I had this queue of hundreds of stashes in my repo. Then I realized that in Magit it was actually really easy to go in and just discard.
That's it. That's true, and that's such a useful thing that I take for granted now in Magit. But if you have to do that on CLI, it's a real big pain in the butt. You might have to do some kind of piping, into grep and all kind of stuff.
So much just keep popping them until they're gone.
Exactly.
Is stash clear?
Is stash clear?
Yeah, we'll clear all the stashes.
Okay, well, that's a good tip. Actually. But if you don't want to clear all of them, if you want to clear, say, half of them, this is nice. So I'll get to that actually in a second, but that kind of, it's not just stashes, that these applying changes works on. I think though this screen here, if you just sit back and reflect on it for just a few minutes, you'll see that this is where it all centers around. And
What is that?
I'm actually recording this, and we had a little inception moment there. So if you press return on anything, it calls the Magit visit. So if I visit, I can visit whatever file I've just pressed enter on. If it's a stash, let's see, if I press enter on a stash, it shows a diff for that stash. Commit shows the information about the commit with the diff on that commit.
So are you able to just take stuff from that help menu and navigate around with just those commands, or do you have to memorize a bunch of keybindings to get the most out of Git?
I still look at the menu. Sometimes, but there's a lot of things that I don't anymore. Like if I'm going to start a branch, BB, I know I can. There's a few things that are drilled in, but it's nice that it's the normal way to use it is the way that shows you. It's kind of like a GUI, you always can see if you need to know what to press. It's always available there. But yeah, I do find I don't think about it as much. On the tasks that I use a lot. So yeah, if you press enter on any of these things, it sort of visits that. And aside from what you just mentioned, K is the universal thing for discard. So if you want to drop a stash, you just browse to that line and hit K. Or if you want to kill the file, it's the same button. You press K. And as far as staging and unstaging, you can see where my cursor is. I can just press S or U to drop that file. And what's really nice to me is, like this untracked files, we have that whole directory doc. It's sometimes inconvenient in the CLI. If you want to surgically add something in a directory, say you have a bunch of unit tests or something like that, and you only want to add one of them, but they're all in the same folder and they're deeply nested, so you kind of have to type that whole path out. It's pretty nice that, I can just do that quickly here by seeing the ones that are staged, and then I can, I have this one staged file that's deeply in there, and I didn't have to kind of type the whole, I don't know. I think that is pretty convenient.
Yeah, beats typing or copying and pasting from the terminal.
Right. Yeah, or just navigating all the way deep to get added or something like that. Another really cool thing that you probably would not do in Git, but in Magit, it's so easy that I do it all the time, is dealing with hunks and regions. And if you press tab on any of these files, you can see kind of a diff right there in your in the Magit status page. And these, I don't know if you can see they're like collapsible addresses. These are called hunks, and Git keeps track of those if you save a file more than once, and you can stage just one of those hunks. For example, so I just staged one of those hunks and didn't stage the whole thing, okay, so here, all the time I feel like I forgot that I left a console.log in my code or something like that I need to remove. So if it's not a hunk, which in this case it's not one, I can select it. And actually I staged that one, but you can imagine, let me stage that whole thing and I'll do the reverse. If I accidentally staged it, you can use mark region and unstage that, and then it's not going to be staged anymore. So
could you discard the K command as well?
you could do that too. Yeah, K, all those commands work as well. So that's something that, but it's so you have to type the address to use the hunk, I feel like, or at least you have to use the git diff git, I forget the whole command to do it, but to deal with hunks in CLI, it's just something you would never do, but it's really convenient here.
Are there issues with because I patch my divvy up my commits into hunks on the CLI, and sometimes when you do git add patch, and it gives you something similar where you interactively add different parts of the file, or different parts of the file that have changed. Sometimes when you try to narrow down on a region, you try to split it and it won't let you. So if there's a hello world print statement and a console log above it, sometimes it won't let you split it further.
That's because it's a hunk.
Yeah, yeah.
But if it's not a hunk, if you don't want to deal with it as a hunk, you can always, in Magit at least, select the region.
So are the hunks just close to each other in the file, or are
They tend to be when you save more than once.
So every time you save, it creates another hunk?
Git recognizes that. I actually don't understand it that well, but I haven't called on to all the times it considers the thing to be a hunk. Do you have any idea?
No, I didn't even realize they were tied with right into the file. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes it won't split it, and I was wondering if the Git was restricted by that.
But if it doesn't, you can always mark the region and then interact with that region that you have selected, which is the way I do it usually anyway.
When you say mark the region, just like any other.
using beat visual notes and select a part.
Mark region, yeah, that's Emacs jargon for selecting it, highlighting that region of text. So you start from one side, you drag it, and you got the selected region.
Yeah.
That's the way you can interact with that using staging and unstaging as well. and then it's, you know, a subset of a hunk maybe, right? So I do that all the time. It's immensely useful.
The evil log is the same thing as the
Okay. As far as branches, again, I'm just reading off of what's available there, but it's nice to, this is something that's really not that hard, I guess, to do if you have a good Git CLI, but with something like Ivy that uses a grep-based, this list here, I can type like regex expressions, so whatever list you're using to display in the what do you call it, the mini buffer, is Magit has pretty good integration with a lot of them out there.
So you can quickly navigate between all the files that you're using in the internet.
Exactly. So if you're wanting to branch or create a branch, Y is a way to look at all of your refs that are available. So that's really convenient. And I don't ever use notes, but notes are really easy to attach to a branch here. It's probably easy to do in Git CLI too.
It's just some text that you can attach to it?
You can put information that's like a comment,
Okay.
right? I have seen blog posts where people swore by them. I've thought about learning more about how you can integrate it in.
I've not seen it in GitHub, so maybe that's why it doesn't exist.
That, or maybe it doesn't. I don't know. Maybe that I've noticed whenever I commit something to and start a pull request on GitHub, it uses the stuff past the title as the message in GitHub's. I don't know. It's hard to describe, but I wonder that it may do stuff and you don't realize it. Stashing, that same idea. If I press the letter Z, you got your stash list, and this is all the options you've got. Save index. Then committing, C. I think this is mostly self-explanatory, but whenever you do start to commit, this screen is probably the commit edit message screen. It's the same thing that you already see if you've got Git as your default editor for Git. So CK cancels it. I like, it's convenient to open an ediff session. If I'm on a stage to change and I press E here, you know, I don't know if you use ediff for your diffs, but it's integrated into Magit too. You just press E. This is log. If you just press L twice, you can get a nice interactive log buffer. It has it as a graph and everything. And you press enter or tab on any, or space on any ref, and it will show you the diff on that. The great thing too about a lot of these is cherry picking and stuff like that. It does what it says is called DWIM, do what I mean. So if you have your cursor on something, it makes assumptions that you want to use that thing if you're cherry picking with it or something like that. So.
Is there a way to switch to the graphical view of the log?
Yes, there is I believe it's exclamation point. Yeah, see that? Get K, is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, something similar to that.
Or
I would assume it runs inside of Emacs.
I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, there's like a way to integrate it in CLI.
That actually was it. There just wasn't any graph information on that particular one I showed. But I mean, if you say Z, what were we doing? Log, yeah, L. See that show graph? If you press enter, that switches on. So you can edit your switches here. You can save those too. to your
Is that
config.
preferences?
Yeah. And save these options to your switch so that anytime you open a log, it'll always do that. So if I do log all branches, it should have a nice.
Nice.
All right. But you also have Git K and Git GUI too, so I don't ever use that, but I'm getting close to the end here. Okay. As far as merging and rebasing, I usually have no problem, but it is nice if I want to. Let me go to a different. Let's see. Hello Git world. Yeah. So say if I wanted to rebase this on master. R shows you the rebase pop-up. I can choose elsewhere and then choose the branch I want, which is defaulting already to master. And it says failed. This isn't a great error message, but basically it's failing because there's a conflict. You can always press $sign to see the output, and it's saying there's conflicted files. So I can come over here and see where my conflict was on that. And then as you fix those, let's see, it's.
So they put the hump into a mini buffer to where you could just resolve the hump?
That was the whole file. It was a very small file. Yeah. And then once you do that, what is it? Yeah. So if you press R again for rebase, it gives you the thing you expect for continue, abort, all those options. I also mentioned earlier cherry picking. Just I'll touch on it, but if you press, let me go ahead and cancel this rebase abort.
Can you tell me what cherry pick? What do you mean by cherry picking?
Cherry picking is whenever you want just a single commit from another branch.
Okay.
And or you can get a range of commits from another branch, but you don't want all the commits that are different from upstream. It's useful whenever I've been in situations where it doesn't come up a lot, but Magit makes it pretty easy, so it's something good to be aware of. I say no on that.
It's really useful when you're backporting changes after a release.
Yeah,
We use it all the time.
got it.
Right after release.
Makes sense. No, don't save that. So if you press Y, this is your cherry picking menu, and you can find the head. So let's say I'll choose this branch, and upstream I'll say master, and let's see, I'll save the file. Yes, why not? Yes. It shows all the commits that can be cherry picked. So this branch is 5 ahead of upstream, and at that point I can press A, capital A. What if you press H, you can see it on that menu, and you can choose to the cherry that you've chosen, or the commit hash that you've chosen. You can choose to apply it somewhere or donate it somewhere else, or if you were choosing a hash that was for another branch, you could choose to apply it to the current branch. So really easy. That covers the Magit status buffer. That's pretty much where everything centers around. There are a couple of useful Magit interactive functions. What's your name again? Nola mentioned one of them. Magit blame is very nice. That you can just look at a nice blame perspective. Let me go back to.
It's not nice to the person getting blamed.
And well, yeah. I have often blamed myself unhappily.
But it's nice for the labeler.
There's a guy on our team that goes back to commits all the time like this, and he messages me, and I'm like, dude, it's been 3-4 years since I did that.
Yeah. Let me go to one that's like a bit more active. Say Magit blame. So this is a very old file. What is nice is, and you can press Q once you've finished looking at who edited that part or what commit it was. Another one that I really like is Magit log buffer file. And this is great because this is all the commits that affected the file I'm viewing. And so you can go look at an earlier commit, say, and see what the file looked like in that commit. And so it's this file here, say. So this is what that file looks like. And then you can use Magit file checkout if, say, you wanted to replace your current file with that one that was a few commits ago. So, and it will automatically choose the branch, do what you mean by choosing the branch that from the commit that you chose, and suggest a file name, which is the one that I have open. So those are some nice ones.
Is there a way to like pivot on Git blame so that it maybe groups by the author? Because I saw it was listing every single line.
I don't know. Let's see. If you do, I didn't know that. Magit blame.
It's like the first 4 lines are all the same. There you go.
Huh. I pressed the letter B. Yeah, I actually don't know. Yeah, I would say you may want to play with it.
Is there a way to configure how it shows the blame? Like, there's a similar plugin for that on bin where it just shows it on like the line number column.
Oh,
is there a way to
yeah.
configure that so it just shows.
If there is, I don't know, but I do know that I'll mention a few plugins. People change the way that it works. It's just like org mode. I mean, I feel like people hack on Magit as much as org mode in terms of getting the view to look like they want. And I wouldn't surprise if we got. Hey,
Welcome, guys.
talking about Magit. Almost done here.
Or you can restart from the beginning.
I got it recorded.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Is working with remotes covered in that though?
Yes, you know what? I forgot to mention that. It is very, very easy to do. I was going back here. If you can look in the right here in remoting. If you press M, these are all your options. I always am adding and removing remotes to it. And if you have you know, some stuff upstream that you'd like to push to a new PR on GitHub or something like that, you can. It shows you how fetching and pulling and pushing as well. So capital P pushes whatever you've got into a new branch.
Would you bring the remoting menu back up?
Yeah, sure. Remoting M.
So A for add, going to.
Yeah. Capital F to pull. If you have some changes upstream you want to pull down into your local. Capital F. Lowercase f just to fetch.
So it's like get full origin master would be a capital F.
That's it.
Cool. I learn that all the time. I'm really good at typing get full origin master.
Yep. Well,
F would be faster.
you might prefer this. I mean, if you're already in Emacs and you're already in the code base, it seems like a no-brainer for a lot of that stuff. That's the interactive functions. Here's some nice hacks and plugins. I wanted to show you the cool Magit hub, but I wasn't able to get my authentication set up before coming here. But if you want to be able to have a nice way to fork and create PRs and stuff from within the Magit status buffer, this is a nice plugin for that. It's very popular. This was going to what you were saying about having a nice way to see Git blame. This guy, hacked it to put a little heading for however many weeks in his log buffer. You see stuff like this in Sashachua all the time. People just posting to Reddit their little hack for Magit to do something. This is nice. You could have all your to-dos in the repo in your status buffer. So if you have a lot of to-dos, that's you can interact with them there.
Are those to-dos from org agenda? Or is this separate?
I don't know what repo this came from. It says NG there, so. Oh, I see what you're asking. Are they from org agenda? No, I think these are, that's a good question, actually. I think it's just if you comment a line and put to-do on it.
Oh, yes, yeah, that makes sense.
However, there is
It also pulled up the fix me lines.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
In hack.
And hack.
Yeah.
I guess there's a few keywords.
Yeah, it's pretty legit. There is a good org integration too for stuff, and if you use evil mode, they do have a nice bindings for that here as well. All right. So thoughts, questions?
How well does Magit handle like
Submodules, there's a screen for that. I'll just show it to you. I have done that.
We use a lot of submodules.
Submodules, subtrees, it's very easy.
Yeah.
And if you have a submodule, it will show it on the status, Magit status page. I have one in my Emacs in it. And so if I go over to there.
It's just diff repo instead of diff repo. Okay.
Yeah, see this,
I want to do it.
huh, it's not, I guess, it's not showing anymore, so I'm confused about that. But I used to see it right here. I might have changed it to where I don't have a submodule in there anymore. But it shows it on the Magit status page.
Would you mind showing your init config?
No, sure. For Magit, yeah.
Yeah.
Nothing to it. I got it pretty plain Jane.
Nice.
Org mode's another beast, but Magit, yeah. I think one thing I would say is if you're not using projectile, Magit and projectile like each other a lot too.
Same author, right?
Yeah, is it? It might be actually. Okay.
Although, I read somewhere that he doesn't use it, stopped using projectile.
Projectile. Oh, okay. I like it a lot. I wonder why.
I've been sort of experimenting with the different completion things, Helm, IDO, projectile. Do you guys have one that you like?
I prefer Ivy myself. Just because it seems to be faster and does everything Helm does that I need. Ivy, yeah.
Use Helm with company plugs. It's pretty nice.
I have sort of a question. So, is there an easy way to do this either inside of Magit or in Emacs in general? What would be really cool is you could associate a certain Git repo with another Git repo on a remote machine, and at certain times I'm ready to push, because I have my production server in the cloud, and I've gotten to this point where I want to push it. Is there an easy way to associate this Git repo with another folder somewhere else and quickly Git pull so I don't have to SSH into the machine and pull it?
Yeah, and I'm sure that everybody in here some others might have better answers, but Git's answer to that, I think, would be the remote. You would set a remote for that.
And then you can set up some SSH keys between the two.
Got it, yeah. So look into Git remoting and sort of research on that. And if you want to look into it easily, go into Magit status buffer and press R, or capital R, and you can see the remoting options you have there. They might be self-explanatory.
Okay. And then add your public key on the server so that you can access it.
Right. Okay, so it already has that. Git has that. Cool. Okay.
By the way, for SSH, does that generally speaking mean just the key or SSH agent? Because that has been known to cause, some kind of, bumps. If you don't have it, your key dynamically loaded through agent. So is that what you are doing?
I don't use an agent to upload mine, I don't think.
Okay.
You could generate your key using that, right?
Yeah.
But once
I
you're
don't know, I
done,
had some
you put your
problem
public
with
key
that.
on.
The problem I've noticed with SSH was with GitHub because it gives you two options. You can use SSH or HTTPS. Yeah. That's the only thing I noticed.
At Lazin's one, yeah, I think I do load it in memory using SSH agent or whatever it is. Okay.
The only way you can I feel like at least on GitHub, you have to use SSH to have write access to
Right.
help you. But I might be wrong about that.
They've got that HTTPS option, and then you
Well,
put in your
yeah.
username and password every time you make it.
No,
Right,
okay.
exactly.
That must be. All right, any more thoughts?
And
or
by the way,
questions?
have you ever heard to isn't there basically a Git CLI option as well, which supposedly something you cannot handle through Magic, you have to.
Well,
like,
Emacs
right.
has some Git.
You hit the exclamation point.
Yes,
Right,
that's
right.
it. What he said. If you want to interact with the regular old plain Jane Git CLI, exclamation point, gives you access to that. You can put any. I didn't actually mention one thing about it, but if you have any problems, I showed you you press the $sign to see the output. So I have a bug on one of my repos that uses a Git hook that Magit didn't play with nice, and so I need to.
Do any of your other packages call Magit through integration?
us a C. Magit. Nope.
Cool.
And that is it.
So you didn't
I'm
have to
surprised
set
there's
any
nothing in. I'm actually.
special keybindings or anything, that's it, just.
I'm actually very surprised. I thought I would configure the hell out of it, but it works out of the box for me perfect. So I guess they started on.
Did you spend any time focusing on the key bindings when you first started using it, or just get the help menu up and run with that?
Yeah, I think I certainly felt like a kid in a candy shop for the first, whenever I opened it up, just press H and see what all you can do. So there is that kind of figuring out which buttons you need to press. It's like learning keystrokes for Emacs in general. But at least you can see them there. It's like ediff. You can see them there, right? Yeah.
How long do you think, you said you've been using this for about a year? How long do you think that you got comfortable so you could like use it at work or?
Pretty quick. Even not using it ever, I feel like, and it's hard to talk about it now because it's been so long, but I feel like it's worthwhile to do it anyway, even if you haven't used it before, if you just can see it on the screen in some cases. Like what I showed in terms of staging and unstaging a selected region, that's so much easier than what it would be otherwise. You mess around and get CLI page over, checking the file name in your editor or something like that. It's really convenient from the MagitATX buffer. So I think those great features just kind of, they're really intuitive, even if I feel like I didn't feel like there was a big like learning curve that I had to just sort of suffer through for a long time. That's your mileage may vary.
By the way, did you have to change any like Git config parameters or like the pager or whatever, like just so?
Yeah, that's
like, I'm just wondering.
I don't actually do that, but I bet you can. It's a good question. Any config stuff?
Yeah, if you're out of the CLI world, maybe something might be getting in the way.
There is one thing you can do, which is to ignore. It's not shown here, but if you press I on a file, it ignores it.
Okay.
By ignore, I
Add
think
it to the git ignore.
I think that means git ignore, right?
Yeah, do the Git ignore doesn't have like its own internal Emacs thing?
Oh,
No, that's just a git file, .git ignore. And so if you press I on a file, it ignores it and adds it to git ignore. So that's kind of like a .config type thing that we do.
So it'll open and write to the Git ignore file? Wow, that's cool. Yeah, that's pretty cool.
All right. Well, thanks everybody.